The world of Lyrian is home to many gods, but not all are equal, so today we're going to talk about all of those that we know of. Let's start with Nixian, since he is apparently the first god of Lyrian to have been born. Referred to by seemingly everyone as the god of hate, that seems an awfully strange title for the one who's supposedly meant to safeguard Lyrian. There have been a few community members in the Colorgrave Discord server who've suggested that maybe he wasn't always that. And I agree, there's a strong possibility that that's the case, but what if he not only wasn't the god of hate originally, but ever, including now? I mean, whose word do we really have to go on? Who wrote those books in which we find this information? Can they really be trusted to author the history of the world, its religion especially, unbiased? Something to think about. Even so, Nixian basically became the big bad of Lyrian, deservedly or not, and was eventually defeated in the War of Glass, a huge conflict between these immortal beings. He hasn't made a return to the stage ever since, but according to one book in the VIP room of the Crocasino, there are those who believe he was never actually killed. This is pretty much confirmed by Armadale in Curse Crackers when she expresses concern that her brother might show up there. And also, you know, they're kind of immortal, would make sense that they can't die. But anyway, the next god on our list is the aforementioned Armadale, god of life. Opposing Nixian in the War of Glass, after which is when she presumably founded the geniusly named Ladamra and made little demigods of her own, the Scales. Now, I'm not going to go into these guys in this video, this is about Lyrian. But, you know, Armadale is from Lyrian, so they're still tangentially related, but the point is, after this rebound world, which really went a lot worse than I think most people realise, we'll talk about that in another video, she became a cosmic recluse and only pops up every once in a while to tell random people how shit everything is. She is also one of the 5 gods who give Auron their blessing to unseal the immortal hero Tauren and awaken him from his blessed slumber. I take this to mean that these 5 gods are also the ones who sealed him in the first place. Now, it seems like during the process you go through to get this blessing from Armadale, Auron kinda pulls her out of this depressive episode a little bit. Like, she starts out by saying things like, I wish I could just fade the rest of the way away, but then once you've talked to her a few times, she's like, you know what, maybe you should be reminded of your place, I'm a god, what the hell am I doing? But then, you know, 10 years later and she's talking to Belle like, your life is so short and meaningless, are you sure you're actually happy? And Belle just goes, are you okay? Did you want me to get someone? I think it's safe to say that we're going to see Armadale again. There's definitely more to her story that we've only really been peeking at the edges of so far. So now let's move on to the other 4 gods that gave Auron their blessings, starting with Revulon, god of the storm. It seems like she kinda just gives you the blessing on a whim, or at least the conditions she set for you to earn it seem pretty arbitrary. Although having said that, it makes you wonder just how valuable the King Ring really is. I'll make the crowns video one day, guys, I swear. Pretty much the only time Revulon appears serious is when she sees Auron use the Dread Hand, first noting that it's been a long time since she's seen it, and then saying that she hopes Auron knows what he's doing. Which, girl, I don't know how to break this to you. We don't know exactly what her overall motives are, but there is this theory going around that she's actually working in the interest of the greater good. The greater good. Not particularly caring about the individual lives she might have to take along the way, but rather focusing on the continuance of mortals as a whole. A community member, Nuiki, also recently theorized that the giant hawk in the original Veritas trailer might be Revulon because of the lightning bolt in this scene. I mean, it's possible, and if it is true, then that means Revulon was fighting on the side of the mortals and Armadale. Now, this war was a long time ago, so her allegiances may have changed since then, but it's at least worth considering Revulon might be a good guy. Which brings her admittedly theorized future conflict with Crocodile into a little more of a worrying focus. I mean, as I mentioned in a previous video, there's reasons to believe Crocodile is trying to bring Veritas back to power, and Veritas was on Nixian's side in the War of Glass, so if it's true that Revulon was on Armadale's side, and if Crocodile does end up crossing Revulon, or vice versa, then, well, it all lines up, it makes sense. Plus, there's the possibility that Revulon is already taking steps to counteract Crocodile's plans, as I also mentioned in a previous video. So there's a chance we'll get to know more about this quite soon. The next god that we don't know nearly as much about is the god of Earth, Tetra. Earth in this case obviously meaning ground or rock because the planet itself is called Lyrian. But really that's all we know about them, and we only know that much because the name is mentioned in a book in the New Enlightenment dungeon. Armadale Tetra and I went with him to challenge my brother Nixian. Him being Tauren, by the way. But with this being the only mention of this name ever, how do we know that it's the god of Earth? Well, my friend, that is thanks to one simple, honest merchant. If you were to name yourself Tetra at the start of the game and then go speak to Zagor, instead of his usual "I just call you human" response, he will translate the name to Earth. And yes, he does do this with all the other gods as well. Well, not all the other gods. See, if you call yourself Var or Zole, Zagor will not translate these names into anything. This has led the community to calling these fake gods or lesser gods. Presumably these are gods created by other gods, similar to the Scales perhaps. These are the only 2 that we actually know about, and they were made presumably by Veritas, but we don't actually know if there are any other gods that have been made by the other main gods. I didn't script this part, can you tell? We don't know for sure, but we've taken to calling any name actually translated to another word as a true god. As for how Zagel knows these things, I honestly don't think there's very much to it. He's a well-travelled and well-learned man, probably speaks multiple languages. This is most likely just a tool for us lore nerds to play around and figure all this stuff out with, more than anything else. While we're here though, I should mention that if you call yourself River, he will translate it to rain, but this is not a huge lore revelation. It's apparently just an in-joke between the devs. River is not secretly a god. Yet. But now we are moving on to the God of Water. We have no idea who the God of Water is, absolutely no clue. So we shall move on again to the God of Light. Now this is a juicy one because the new Sunset update focuses specifically on this mysterious figure only seen once before, and now she's got a lot to say. Mostly insults though, it is mostly insults. Now, plenty of people have theorized in the past that this is probably Rayam. People are always talking about her holy light and all that crap, so it's gotta be her, right? You know, light, God of light, that's it, right? Well, allow me to do some extreme spoiling. I'm not joking, this lore is hidden very deeply within the game. You have to solve a ridiculous puzzle to get to it, and I'm about to just read it all out now, okay? Okay. My last memory was marching on that field. All of us save Revulon, who held the north alone. We had thought we were the ones laying bait, but all along we had been the prey. By the time I awoke, I was alone and still scattered. It was like waking from one dream into another. Slowly, the drowsy fog has cleared, revealing a world so greatly changed from my memories. All my brothers gone and one sister alone persists. I soon learned of Torren and his fate, that he had saved our world, a world that has forgotten us, for her, for Rayam. The fools. We won that war at the price of another. If we are not swiftly hidden once again, I fear for the future. Many a cosmic glimmer I've watched die out, countless lights consumed in an ever-growing star. The light that's come to our world is no light of mine. So not Rayam then. Rayam is clearly from somewhere else, but come on, you know what I'm going to say. We're going to talk about another video, of course. Look, I know it might seem a bit random to just not talk about one of the gods in a video about all of the gods, but trust me, this needs to be its own video, okay? For now, let's focus on the real God of Light. Her name was never mentioned in the game anywhere, however, our Lord Mimbron has a habit of just saying shit if you're ever in a voice call with him, so this name is technically already out there, and so I have another official statement from the Milkman. Look, if you're not in the Discord server, you're not going to get all the jokes, okay? The God of Light's name is Enether. Confirmed by the Honest Merchant, this is the fifth and final god whose blessing releases Torren's soul and begins his cycle anew. Except for the Water God, because we don't have that name yet. There was another god name dropped in the Sunset update. Our new friend Aoife has the chance of saying this dialogue once you complete her little side quest of planting seeds in all the stumps around town. A glorious day, says I, life-given water tumbles from the roiling skies above. Beats a day of snow, even spring ensures no respite from the accursed white. We Fae take not kindly to the touch of Ivorous, you know. Well, that sounds like a name. Let's see what the rat boy has to say about it.
Drink your milk.
No, not that one. Yeah, there we go. Ice, huh? Well, looks like we have another god on our list, the god of ice, Ivorous. And now for our favourite boy, Veritas, the god of shadow. There isn't very much for me to say about him that I didn't already mention in the video specifically about him, although it should be noted that now Enether joins the many people saying that Veritas is already in control of Auron's actions. Whether or not this is actually true is yet to be seen, but maybe this god knows a little bit more about the situation than the mortals who've expressed similar concerns. But I am very hopeful that we'll find out a lot more in the game literally titled Veritas. And finally, we have a name that's been in the game for quite a long time, Kiga, the god of metal. His name, by the way, is mentioned in Crocodile's trophy room. The tag reads, Luxonite and Shaderite longswords taken from the fallen god, Kiga, servant of hate. I've been over this bit of text before, but now with the lore in the new Enlightenment dungeon, we have a little bit more to go off. It turns out Kiga was marked by Torren in one of his earliest lives, although it doesn't say that this was when he fell, so that probably happened later in the War of Glass. Also, we still don't have anything to explain how or why Crocodile has these swords in the first place, by the way. But now, that brings our list to an end. Or so I thought. During the writing process for this video, a member of the Discord community, Enigmatic Repose, brute forced one of the remaining god names. They just kept renaming themselves a bunch of different things and then going to speak to Zagel until eventually one worked. And that name? Firel, God of Fire. Bringing us to a total of 9 named gods plus 1 unnamed god and 1 imposter god. However, there is a book in the library that speaks of 11 mighty souls. Assuming we're not counting Raim in that, and also assuming that this is even talking about gods at all, we are one mighty soul short. And we don't even have a dominion for this one yet, although it's probably something like air or wind, something along those lines. We can't be absolutely confident in that. After all, we have water and ice, earth and metal, and we have storm, which seems weirdly specific but also covers a lot of things. Because like when you think of a storm, you think wind and rain and of course lightning, which Revillon has been shown to control, so maybe she can just control lightning, but if that were the case, surely her blessing would be called lightning rather than storm. I don't know. What I'm getting at is, who's to say the 11th god isn't that of, say, magma or trees or something? I don't know. Having said all that, we do have the smallest reason to theorize something specific. We do have something called a splinter of wind in Xenocide. I wonder if the red crystals have nothing to do with Nixian after all, and are actually parts of a god of wind or something. Keep in mind though that since Xenocide Collide isn't actually a released game as of yet, it can't technically be considered canon. Or more accurate to what I mean, anything we glean from it now is subject to change, so if when it hopefully does come out there are contradictions to what we know or think we know based on it now, we have to accept that we were speculating on a work in progress and take the finished product as the actual canon. Having said that, I still think that the last dude is definitely the God of Wind, and I need engagement on these videos, so give me suggestions for what you think the names of the Wind God and Water Gods are. Or better yet, just go full crazy like Enigmatic Repose did and brute force it yourself. Then join the Discord and tell us all about it. We will think you are very cool. Until next time.